Hey guys, I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine that the Conservative and the Reform parties had been discovered giving top-level advice to Donald Trump on how to win the presidential election. And not only that, I want you to imagine that it had been revealed that they were planning to send 100 of their activists into key swing states to try and tilt the election in favor of Donald Trump. Now, can you imagine the uproar and the outrage that we would hear from the left of politics? They would be accused of everything from election interference to spreading misinformation to trying to swing an election in favor of the ruthless, evil, fascist Donald Trump. Well, we don't need to imagine it because guess what? That's exactly what the Labour Party have been doing. Labour has been meddling in the US presidential election with Labour strategists, top-level strategists, not only providing advice to Kamala Harris, but also Labour operatives planning to send 100 Labour activists into key swing states to try and nudge the election towards Kamala Harris. Now, I think this is absolutely outrageous. In this video, I'm going to tell you what it's really all about. Don't forget to hit the bell button, the like button, the subscribe button, and don't forget you can get that exclusive 25% discount to my Substack in a link right below in the description to this video. But check this out. This is what this is about. Labour's election interference. Check out this clip.
The Labour Party's head of operations posted online last week that nearly 100 Labour Party staff, current and former, were heading to battleground states and said she had another 10 spots available, promising, "We will sort your housing."
The Trump campaign's lawyers have quoted that post in this explosive letter to federal election authorities, calling on them to investigate the Labour Party for blatant foreign interference in the presidential campaign. They say paying for travel or accommodation or any use of party resources to organise the trip would breach US laws on foreign national donations. Labour deny any wrongdoing.
Angela Rayner, standing in at Prime Minister's questions today, insisted the volunteers had paid their own way.
Will the Deputy Prime Minister join me in applauding the brave Labour staff members who've travelled across the Atlantic to campaign against Donald Trump?
People in their own time often go and campaign, and that's what we've seen. It happens in all political parties. People go and campaign and they do what they want to do in their own time with their own money.
Senior members of Keir Starmer's team met campaigners for Harris at the Democratic Convention in Chicago, also noted by Trump's lawyers. Labour say they did not assist her campaign.
And this isn't only about election interference. Oh no. What we also learned this week is that a Labour-linked Centre for Countering Digital Hate, set up by none other than Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff Morgan McSweeney, led by none other than a Labour-aligned activist, has also been meeting with senior political operatives in both the UK and the US to discuss what is top of their priority list, according to leaked documents, which is, and I quote, kill Elon Musk's Twitter. That is what they say on their document. That is top of the agenda. Kill Elon Musk's Twitter. Not only that, but they want to discuss, and again I quote, increasing UK and EU regulation, otherwise known as increasing regulation to try and strengthen and tighten their grip over social media platforms like Twitter and X. And of course, as we saw earlier this year, lots of the same people, Labour operatives and allies, calling to shut down alternative television channels and platforms like GB News. What's this all about? I'm going to tell you after this clip.
What we're now seeing with GB News is GB News consistently flouting those rules and being ruled against, yet continuing to, if you like, enjoy the privileges of being a broadcaster. Now, the issue is that in the internet age, you can't shut people up. That's fine. But should you recognise them as broadcasters on a par with the BBC or ITN or Sky or Times Radio? And my answer is, if you're not going to abide by the rules, you shouldn't have that protection or that status.
And that was the comment you made last night on air, in a TV debate on the BBC, and a viral response, no doubt, some heavily in favour, no doubt some hugely against. As to what you meant, And as you say, you can't shut down a broadcaster entirely because you just pop up on YouTube or Rumble, depending where you're coming from. But the action you'd like to see Ofcom taking, just explain to our listeners what that would mean in practical terms.
Well, I think we have a very precious broadcast ecology in this country, which goes back to the establishment of the BBC, which was done under regulation. Then we had the expansion into ITV, and now we have multi-channel. And as far as news and current affairs is concerned, it is supposed to be, first of all, fair and accurate, and as far as it can in partisan terms, to be impartial. And that was initially what gave you the right to get on the airways, which are controlled by the government. Now, obviously, technology has made it much easier for people to get on the airwaves, but that broadcasting is still subject to regulation. And my view is that it would be a good thing for our society if that regulation continues, and that therefore means that people who flout that regulation have to face consequences.
So what, you shut the station down?
Well, I think you'd shut it down as a broadcaster. I mean, it can go online, that's fine.
But you can't get it on your set against a channel, whatever it happens to be.
So what's this all about? Well, as I wrote this week in the Substack, actually, this isn't just about the Labour Party. It's not about Elon Musk. It's not about Twitter. It's not about what you're seeing in these leaked documents. Oh no, this is about a much deeper divide in contemporary Western politics. This is about a new fault line in contemporary politics. Now, in my essay, I point to the writing of Michael Gurri, a former CIA operative and analyst. He wrote a fantastic piece this week, which I summarise in the Substack. He says, today's politics is basically divided between two vital forces. On the one hand are the people who are trying to preserve and protect the free marketplace of ideas, the public square, who do not want to be controlled, who do not want to be dominated. And on the other hand are those groups who are absolutely obsessed with control, with domination, with really imposing their power on the supply of information in Western democracies. Now, I call these two groups the Liberators and the Controllers. And I think if you look at contemporary politics, at everything from the debate over Elon Musk and Twitter, all the way through to the debates over Brexit, the rise of populism in Europe, I think this fault line over who wants to be controlled, who wants to control citizens in Western life, versus people who don't want to be controlled, who don't want the state to be imposing all of its power, all of its domination on them. I think this is one of the key fault lines right now. And at the heart of it is this dispute between Elon Musk and Keir Starmer. Check it out.
Well, Elon Musk is certainly not intimidated. He continues to speak out, particularly on what's happening in the UK right now, much to the frustration of the elites. It all started when Elon Musk said that what we're seeing with rioting in the UK was inevitable and that civil war is probably likely because of unchecked immigration. For that, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, the Justice Minister, they all attacked Elon Musk and said he should pull his head in, but he hasn't. Have a look at some of the stuff he's been posting just recently. He posted this image of three people convicted of different crimes but got vastly different punishments. I think we've got the image ready to show you. Here we go. On the left, you've got someone Musk says made a racist comment, got 15 weeks jail. In the middle, someone who sold anti-immigration stickers and for that got 24 months in prison. And on the far right, someone who repeatedly raped a 12-year-old girl and got a 2-year suspended sentence doing 180 hours community service with no prison time, asking what the hell is going on. Have a listen to a BBC editor who slammed Elon Musk and said, what right does this guy have to speak to our Prime Minister?
It is extraordinary for the boss of a big US tech firm to be publicly confronting the British Prime Minister like this over Home Affairs issues. You know, it's difficult to imagine Apple's Tim Cook or Meta's Mark Zuckerberg doing something similar. And what we've seen Musk do is he hasn't directly incited violence. He didn't explode like we might see Donald Trump do, but he didn't call for calm either. And lots of people are saying that because he's so influential, that his actions are potentially quite dangerous. What he did, as we've just heard, is to echo arguments that we've seen from the far right, including claims that there's a two-tier policing system in the UK and that immigrant criminals are treated less harshly.
Yeah, so the elites enact terrible policies and then blame anybody who notices. You can bet if Musk's views aligned with the BBC, there would have been no complaint at all.
And you know, one of the fascinating aspects about this debate is just how far these so-called controllers will go. I just want to read you a short passage from the Substack drawing on the writing of Michael Gurri, because I think it really sums it up. He says, climate change. To save the earth, they must control away our vehicles. They must control our travel. They must control our gas supply, our diets, even our plastic straws. Anti-racism. Well, in order to ensure perfect equity, inclusion, and diversity, they must control every outcome of every transaction in society, from the scores that our children receive in exams all the way through to the people we hire to work in our companies. Gender identity. Well, in order to allow for the proper fluidity in the new gender world, they must control the relationship between parents and children, access to women's bathrooms and women's sports, and finally, above all, they must control the English language through the imposition of things like gender pronouns. This is a debate, let me tell you, this is a debate between liberators and controllers, which is lying at the heart of our politics. And one of the things I also noticed this week, great essay by the philosopher John Gray, in which he says, if you want to know why democracies like Britain are in such a state, you need to understand that many of the decisions that are taken by our elected leaders go straight into the hands of an unelected, technocratic, bureaucratic class, which I would argue is also dominated by controllers, by people who want to brand your views about issues like immigration, biological sex, the need to secure and strengthen our national borders, to see the positive, not just the negative in our national history. All of those things are dominated by controllers, by the people who dominate the legacy media, who dominate the creative industries, who dominate the universities, who dominate what Jonathan Rauch has called the constitution of knowledge. They are the meaning makers. They are the narrative shapers. Everything from the adverts we see on television through to the best-selling books in the shops, through to the museums and the galleries and how they interpret our culture and ultimately how they interpret who we are. It's this divide between the liberators and the controllers that not only explains why people are rebelling against this overly oppressive, stifling, controlling establishment by voting for the likes of Donald Trump and populists in Europe and movements like Brexit, but it also helps to explain why many people are simply abandoning politics altogether. They've decided, you know what, they don't really want to get involved. They just want to live in peace away from these overbearing controllers. And you know, one of the interesting things, lastly, just to leave you with, what's so troubling for many people within this liberal authoritarian controlling complex is to know that many people out there, millions of people, would rather live in a democracy with imperfect leaders like Donald Trump or the populists of Europe, but know that they are not being controlled, than put themselves in the hands of the controllers who ultimately want to control and dominate everything and anything that stand in their way. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Don't forget to join me at substack.mattgoodwin.org. You'll find that exclusive discount 25% off right below this video. Loads of content. Get the full essay over on Substack. We are delivering lots of content each week. I'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in.